Welcome to Module 6. We will briefly review Module 5, talk a little bit about the research, talk about the Module 6 assignment. I've said this before, early birds tend to earn all of the participation points. This was a pretty good week. Most of you, in fact, I think 99% of you managed to get your first posting done on Monday. I hope all of the heads up and all of the information about the Monday due date helped. You can achieve higher grades on assignments if you don't leave everything to the Sunday night rush. If you submit assignments on time, you don't lose points, and I would imagine it decreases your stress. So participate early in the week, use citations and references and proper format at minimum on your initial posting and preferably on your engagement postings as well. Engage with others, use the number that is provided that you need to do. Respond to instructor postings. Each week, at least one of your responses can be to me. Use acceptable sources, books, business journals, articles. Blogs are not acceptable. Wikipedia, encyclopedias are not acceptable. And make sure you are substantive and detailed in your responses. I really don't understand why folks wait until Sunday to get everything done. I would be going crazy on Sunday if I tried to do my posting, engagement postings, as well as my assignments. It is critical that you read all of my postings, especially if they are the announcement postings, because I think some of you are missing them. They are posted each week and they're designed to help you. Be careful about agreeing with incorrect comments. There were several people this week I know who, on reviewing a press release, said you don't need the end or the marks on the end. You do need that. That it didn't make sense to have contact information. That's required. I believe it was on March 22nd that I posted the press release format and announcements. Use it. And you will get information that can apply to the assignments. The aid, application analysis, information, depth and details, examples, and explanations are needed. Discussion 5, you were reviewing the content. There were several people who focused mostly on changing words. I was really looking for lots of content suggestions. And if there weren't suggestions, to make detailed comments on why you thought something was good. That you reviewed the key points and that you demonstrated use of analysis and insights is what I was looking for on discussion 5. I would say discussion 5 is one of the ones where more people earned a lot of points, so that's good. I know it's not easy, but it's okay to tactfully tell someone that they didn't use the right message. There were people who used the scenario with the supplier and poor working conditions. This week was on discrimination, and you may actually be doing them a favor by giving them that kind of feedback. Discussion 6, you're looking at internal and external threads. You are reviewing Module 5 message postings. You're not looking at your own, you're looking at someone else's. You select the messages. You can pick the same person for internal and external if you want to. And you are reviewing the brand, legal, and compliance implications. I am going to be saying this a lot over the next few weeks because I cannot say it enough. Brand, legal, and compliance implications for both the supplier and the discrimination scenarios are part of the final paper. It must be included in the final paper. I think it's actually worth a total of something like 70 points. Do not post your initial posting as an attachment, include the original message, and then add the brand, legal, and compliance implications. Your engagement postings are to agree or disagree with what somebody said. You need one for internal, one for external, and as I said, one of your responses can be to me for one of my postings. You're reviewing the discrimination messages. You're providing, supporting, or conflicting comments. And I said it, I'm going to say it again. The brand, legal, and compliance implications from DB4 and DB6 are added to the final paper. I cannot even begin to tell you how many people each semester leave that off. And it is a major, negative impact on final paper grades. For the milestone 3 discrimination strategy, you needed the communication context, the overview of the scenario, the communication needs, explain the stakeholder needs, internal and external, and discuss whether you are using an offensive or reactive or proactive, rather, offensive or proactive, or a defensive or reactive strategy, and why. You were, for the internal communication, discussing type and purpose. The method, how were you sending this out? Was it an email? Was it a memo? Was it something being posted on an intranet? Was it informational, educational, persuasive? And justify that strategy. Target audience, explain who they are and justify, and develop your draft communication. External had the exact same elements as internal, and your conditions, communication strategy, or your summary, why the approach you used was the best one, and what other options were considered. These are basically the headings I would have used: communication context, communication need, internal communication, then type and purpose, target audience, draft, which could also have been in the appendix. External, I would have used the same as internal, your conditions, communication strategy or summary, and your references. Use a cover page, use the APA cover page, use at least 3 main headings, which you can look at the previous slide. Introduction is not used as a heading. Abstracts are not required. The requirements, list those, ensure cover all topics. Avoid first person, you, your, and contractions. Paper should be double spaced. Be sure citations and references match. You use the last name and publication date. If no publication date is offered, you do not use download date. You use N period, D period for no date. If you are actually quoting something, you have to add the page or paragraph numbers for the quotes. And on the reference page, the first line is in the margin and all subsequent lines are indented. It's called the hanging indent format. Module 6 paper. You're going to be reviewing and selecting an article from the Center for Media and Democracy PR Watch. There is a link in the directions. You're going to choose one that's of interest to you. You are going to evaluate the message in the article regarding its newsworthy effectiveness, whether the article was favorable or unfavorable to the company's reputation. You're going to describe the tool and or technique used, an interview, a press release, a press conference, whatever they used. Evaluate and analyze. Do not just report on the article that you read. Talk about how it applies to PR, how it applies to the course, how it could even apply to your selected company. There is a short paper rubric, how to generate good PR. Keep the rubric nearby to make sure that you have covered everything you need to cover in the paper. Make sure you cover the message, reputation, tools and techniques. Use details, explanations and examples, and explain the impact of public relations. Research, we've already done this, but just as a quick review, if you go into the Shapiro Library for this week, discrimination, if I just put that in, it was a basic search, and I came up with 1.7 million plus articles. I added human resource issues, I get down to 9,000. I add public relations, I get down to 709. Still a massive number of articles, but 709 is a lot better than 1.7 million articles. So the more you can define what you're looking for, the better research you're going to have. I also suggested that Google Scholar was good to use. Again, I put in discrimination. I checked articles because I don't want case law, and I can pick the date, and I do not include patents as part of what I'm looking for. So a review of some best practices: match your citations and references, avoid first person, you, your, and contractions. That is a standard APA rule. Address all required content elements. Again, my suggestion is to take each required element of the paper, make it a heading. That will ensure that you have completed all of the requirements. Eliminate any redundancies. Don't give me the same information more than once. And review the paper before submitting it. Make sure it makes sense. Make sure it reads okay. Make sure you pick up on typos and wordos, words that are right but spelled right but the wrong word. I've said this before, read it aloud. excuse me, review all your previous feedback and announcements. Be clear and concise. Write in short, clear sentences. Be comprehensive. Address all of the required elements. Be analytical, insightful, share examples, and provide supporting evidence, which is another way of saying research and references. My suggestion to you is to start working on implementing improvements to the milestone papers. You're not going to have any assignments due, any written assignments due for modules 7 and 8. So start working on implementing your improvements to the milestone papers. Be sure you add information to DB4, from DB4 and DB6 on brand, legal, and compliance implications. I don't know how many times I've already said this today. Do not leave brand, legal, and compliance implications off the paper. Too many do and fail the final paper, which is worth 350 points. The final paper is not just combining all of the milestone papers. You are adding elements. DB4, DB6, DB7, DB8 are all added. So do not just think it is combining the milestone papers. And if you have questions, please post them in class. Thanks for listening.